Welcome to the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your first choice for second round advice, with your hosts, Gabriel Miramontes and Jacob Bartley.
Pearl on 3rd and 7. Jefferson hauls it in. Would be Max Crosby. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your first choice for second round advice. Gabriel Miramontes, Jacob Bartley, back in action after taking just a little bit of a break. Everyone gets a bye, right? Sometimes they last 1 week, sometimes they last 3 weeks. It is what it is. But
had a 3-week bye,
and it led right into Halloween. We love Halloween so much. We just had to prepare. We spent the whole month preparing for Halloween on our end. Jacob, were there fireworks? How did it end up going? How was your Halloween?
Not bad. I know we usually did the I remember we used to compare players to our favorite candies and stuff. Obviously we didn't do that this year. By the way, I would compare the Niners to a Kit Kat because they're broken. That's what I would that's
how ironic. I was going to compare the Raiders to a Kit Kat as well. I kid you not. Because as soon as you said that, it was something that I wanted to talk to you about. And I'm like, I'm just going to surprise him. We're going to do it today on the podcast anyways. And look at you. You brought it up yourself. So great minds.
That's funny. So they're both broken Kit Kats, but for totally different reasons.
Yes. But one team got better at the trade deadline, and the other team may have gotten much, much worse. Or maybe not. We'll talk about both of those things in just a little bit here. But
they
thank
both
you
made
guys.
the right moves.
Yeah, I guess. We'll see. We're going to talk about them very shortly. Welcome on into the podcast, the First Round Fantasy Podcast. If you hear anything, see anything you like today, feel free to like and subscribe. It helps us out that much more. We already have some early risers in the chat today. David Tulane, Raiders are going to start playing better. I sure hope so. And Old Faithful Star Drew saying, I guess he's watching Marvel in 8 days. Great way to start the show with the movie comment. I had another one set up. But anyways, Jacob, quick update. How are your fantasy teams doing? What's going on in the world of fantasy football in Jacob's head?
That's a great question. My fantasy teams, so overall, like in all my leagues, I'm over 500, which for me, I consider that a win because like a lot of times, like especially in the past, I've been under 500. And even earlier this year, like for the first like 4 or 5 weeks, I was overall under 500. But now I'm back up. I'm about like 4 games. I kind of keep track of all my leagues and like a win-loss record for all the teams combined.
Yeah.
And I'm 4 games over 500. So
there you go, man.
I'm happy with that.
I don't do that, but I feel strong in some leagues and I feel weaker in other. That's a short synopsis. And I was going to say, you said something, and I forgot it already. Darn it. Look at me. Short-term memory loss.
I will say in the leagues that I care most about, which like basically those are the ones we've been playing in the longest that have like the most, bragging rights involved.
Dynasty.
I would say Beers, Rio, which I do want to win that Rio League one of these years. I went to the championship one year and lost. And then Dynasty, I'm doing really good in. And then Pick 6, which is like, I care about that league a lot, still a lot of bragging rights in that league. I'm 3-5, but I just beat the person who's in 6th place, and they're also 3-5 now. So that's looking like it's doable.
That's looking like it's doable.
Yeah. If I could sneak in Pick 6 with my team, which I think is a pretty good squad, I think I have a chance.
Yeah. In that Rio League specifically, I started out like 2-4 or something like that. And I think 3-5. And now with that trade that I made, I feel like I have a really strong team now. Breece Hall is getting better. Gibbs is
you still have Tyreek Hill, or you traded it?
Traded Tyreek Hill, but I got Amon-Ra and CD in that deal, so I feel like
I will say, you say I never hook you up in trades. That off-season Tyreek Hill trade is the best trade I've ever given you.
No one talks. Keeper leagues are weird. All right, whatever. Let's get to today's first topic. We're talking about my Oakland Raiders. That's right. I still call them my Oakland Raiders. We're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. Halloween was such a good time last night. I literally didn't even hear about this news until like 9:30 this morning. I was
It
like
happened
at
at like
work.
10:40 last night. So I was watching movies and I saw it on the Sleeper app and it said breaking news, Raiders fire Josh McDaniels and GM, blah blah blah. So I guess they did it. Hey, it's Vegas, right? The city that never
Vegas.
sleeps. So they
They
fired
were up late.
10:40 at night.
Yeah, man. It like breath of fresh air, to say the least. I couldn't stand the guy. I was very optimistic. I'd like to consider myself an optimistic person. But from the moment we hired him, I'm like, why are we trying to mimic what the New England Patriots have done over the last 10 or 12 years with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick? We don't have Bill Belichick and we don't have Tom Brady. And not only that,
Yeah.
McDaniels was a coach like 4 years before this, and he was a train wreck in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
But look at us smiling through the
Hey, but
pain.
you had Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Myers, though.
Screw all of them too. It's time to clean shop. And I will say, I was very interested in listening to Antonio Pierce, the new head coach. They gave his press conference today, and I was talking with my wife about this, Jacob, and I just want to talk with you about it for a minute too. When you think about football teams in general, like the NFL, right? You got your Detroit Lion fans. What type of fans are those guys? Your buckle nose, blue collar, hardworking fans, right? Like every team, whether we want to believe it or not, they have a mantra. They have a moral compass as to who their fan base is. Dallas Cowboys. If your name is Brad or Chad, you're probably a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Wow.
Or Johnny.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a New England Patriots fan, you might be, I'm not going to go out of my way to say you're like a proper upper echelon type of person, but when I think of New England fans, and please feel free to prove me wrong, I think of the people sitting by their fireplace reading a nice, good book on a winter's evening. But when you think
of
about
like Ben Affleck and and what's his Matt Damon, that's what.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles. I think about people I don't want to walk near because they might hurt me. Like just bruising people. When you think about Las Vegas Raiders, when you think about Oakland Raiders, which is where they've been over the last couple of years, dude, it's people from all walks of life. It's people that sometimes might be down on their luck, but it's people that are like willing to just freaking put it up, dude. Like they don't care. They love their team down to the dirt, and we've been through the thick of it, man. And this guy, the first thing he said, born and raised in Compton, I was here when the Raiders were here as a kid. I grew up a Raider. I am a Raider, and I'm going to tell it how it is, black and white. And I thought he was going to say black and silver. And I was like, this guy's dope, but he didn't. But I don't know, man. It's just something new, which sucks because we only had a short year and a half with Josh McDaniels, but it needed to end quickly. And look at where we are now. Like we're 3-5. We're obviously going to talk about the fantasy implications of all the players. Devontae Adams has had some down weeks. Josh Jacobs isn't living up to his draft capital. So, we're starting Aiden O'Connell. But from a non-biased perspective, just what are your initial thoughts on the Las Vegas Raiders as a whole? The situation, right? The situation before we get into the fantasy aspect.
Well, there's one like non-important reason why it makes me happy is because some coaches like Andy Reid, he kind of like reminds you of Santa Claus, makes you feel comfortable. Like there's some coaches that look really cool, like Sean McVay or a Kyle Shanahan.
I already know what you're gonna say.
There's some coaches I just do not like looking at, and one of those is Josh McDaniels. Like every time they cut to him, I'm like, eeh. So
he looks
no
like
offense.
a schmuck, dude.
No
he
offense.
Looks like a schmuck.
I don't mean to be mean, but he's just like, I don't know, something about him. There's just something about him. But no, I think it was the right move. I mean, a little late, I think, but hey, maybe they thought, who knows, we'll have a chance. Like we can string together some wins, which they kind of were. And I think it ultimately is the right move for them. I think if I were them, I would have went all in. I would have traded Adams. I would have traded Jacobs. Would have
Yeah.
traded Jacobs. I would have traded
Honestly,
Adams.
though.
Like, why go full tank mode? Like, did they announce they're benching Jimmy?
Yeah, they
Like,
already announced it. They announced it this morning.
so, I think they could have got some. What do they think they're going to do? So, like, get a rookie QB this year,
And
come
ride him
back
to a,
with
I,
Adams and be competitive again. Like, they should have went all out. They could have got some. I think they could have got. Obviously, for Adams, they could have got a haul. For
they could have got a
Jacobs,
haul.
they could
They
have
could have
got
got. They could have got
decent,
something.
decent,
Yeah,
some decent picks back or something,
100%.
right? Like teams, like running back desperate teams would have loved to have Josh Jacobs. Obviously, any team would love to have Devontae Adams. So, I mean, they fired their GM, right? The person who would be the one operating those trades. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the reason why they weren't able. Because who does it then? Like the interim GM,
Yeah,
who
which he
comes in
seems
and
pretty
makes those
legit too.
moves.
Seems like a nice guy.
But overall, I think it's time. It was time. Like they were not going anywhere with that regime.
Stardew said it best. The Raiders defense is legit. I mean, they're not legit, but I was paraphrasing. They're good enough to be okay.
Not bad.
And
I mean, I have a
watch,
deep respect for Max Crosby. Honestly,
dude, he's
I really
a
do.
beast, bro.
He's
He's
awesome.
a beast. But if you watch any of the Raiders games, I'm forced to watch them every week. So I've seen them all. But when you watch Raiders games, those 3 wins, bro, it's when you watch it and you see the record. Like if the Raiders got those 3 wins and then they had that 1 loss, let's just say if they did it in order and they were 3-1, I would have looked at that record and still said, oh yeah, they're gonna lose a lot of games. Because like they don't win games pretty. Like their offense has been atrocious since week 1, and they've skated by like very minimally. And dude, you just need to change. Like a change is needed for sure. Before we talk about these guys, let's start with Josh Jacobs. You mentioned him. And again, I think really quick, I want to touch on this because you said that why didn't they just trade everybody? I had the same thought. Mark Davis still thinks they can compete. He's been steadfast in that. Even before all of this happened, he was steadfast in saying that they're not trading anybody. They're not trading Devontae Adams. They're going to try and compete. And when you look at the division as a whole, like it is still pretty lackluster. I mean, the Chiefs are 5-2. The Raiders are 3-5. They're 2 games back. Like anything can happen. Injuries always happen. Maybe they want to compete. Maybe they're looking for a wild card spot. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't know. And an interim coach who's trying to prove himself, he's not going to come out and shit the bed. He's going to want to come out and lead his team to as many wins as he can, just like Steve Buscemi did. Or I don't know if that's his name, but the other, what was his name? Oh, Rich Bisaccia, whatever. Just like he did. He led us to a wild card playoff berth in his interim year when John Gruden got the axe because he said some really sexist things. Anyways, that's enough about it. Let's look at some of the players here. Josh Jacobs, most notably. He hasn't performed that well at all this year. This week, he gets a juicy matchup with the New York Giants. Currently, the Fantasy Pros rankings in PPR formats have him as the running back 8. I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't disagree with that. I mean, I disagree with that fully. I think DeAndre Swift, probably not against Dallas, but like Joe Mixon against Buffalo, Isaiah Pacheco against Miami, Derrick Henry at Pittsburgh tomorrow night. Like those are all guys I love more than him. And they currently have them ranked behind Josh Jacobs. Like, what do they think is going to happen? They're just going to give Josh Jacobs the ball 20 times. He's already been doing that, and he hasn't done a lot with it. So, like, from your perspective, Jacob, do you have any Josh Jacobs shares? Like, do we have an opportunity to be biased here? Because I don't.
No, I mean, I'll still give my honest opinion on it, but I don't have any Josh Jacobs. It's crazy to think like in the leagues that I play in, like I just don't roster him anywhere.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind, but I especially after last year, which was incredible. But yeah, no, I don't roster him. I'm surprised you don't. But I guess you're not necessarily one of those fans who's like, I have to have the players for my team. Like you don't desperately go after Adams and Jacobs.
Never been that way.
Yeah.
Never been that way. But like, let's think of it from a fantasy perspective again. Like Josh Jacobs, rest of season outlook. Can he be a top 12 back? Can he be a number 1 running back for your football team? Right now, he hasn't really been. He's been like a middle of the road 2.
Yeah.
Does he find greatness in this offense with a rookie? They have a pretty easy. They have a tough schedule. Like they have a middle of the road schedule. Like what is he? Like rest of the season, would you rather have Josh Jacobs or DeAndre Swift?
Swift.
See, this week because of the matchup, I'd go Swift. But I think rest of season, I think we know what we're getting with Jacobs. But Swift plays behind the better line, and he's the better talent right now.
So
yeah,
what is your starter, Aiden O'Connell, rest of the season?
They're starting him as of right now. Like that's
Yeah.
who they're rolling with. Josh
The
Jacobs.
next Brock Purdy, you said.
I don't want to repeat things of the past, Jacob. Okay, Josh Jacobs or Joe Mixon. Rest of season.
That's interesting. I mean, look, they could rely on Jacobs a lot more.
They could. They very well could.
Being with O'Connell in there. That
and
one
again, he's not signed. He's not coming back. They could run him into the ground.
I think I would go Jacobs there.
All right. And pretty much everyone else, I'd go Jacobs over Pacheco, over Henry. I'd go Jacobs. We can go a little bit further, but you're not taking Jonathan Taylor, or you're not taking Jacobs over Jonathan Taylor.
Like, no.
So
that's probably
as far as the weekly rankings are concerned, they look pretty legitimate as far as like rest of season comparison. Yeah. Let's move over to Devontae Adams. He's been lackluster to say as of late. He hasn't been that good. And the one game he did play with Aiden O'Connell, which was, I believe, sometime week 5 against the Chargers, I think. He had 13 targets, 8 catches for 70 yards. So no touchdowns. It was modest. It wasn't great. But if anything, we see that the rookie could have the potential to hyper-target Devontae Adams, which is something Jimmy G hasn't done or Bryce Hoyer didn't do. So is Devontae Adams a locked and loaded wide receiver 1 rest of season?
I mean, yes, he always is. I would say so. No matter who his
quarterback is. Yes.
No matter who his quarterback is. I mean, he is. I mean, depending. Not this scoring, but anyways. So, what week did Aiden O'Connell start?
It was the week against Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh, week 4 then. Okay, so yeah, he had 13 targets.
5. It was week
catches
5
for 75 yards.
Yeah.
And no touchdown, but whatever. Touchdowns are fluky. I mean, he hasn't had a touchdown since week 3, but like I said, touchdowns are fluky. But no, I mean, that was other than week 3 when he had 20 targets, but yeah, look at this. I mean, his target share is insane. Like even though, like, let me see. I was looking at a half PPR scoring format, and he was wide receiver 14. But so I got to look at like a full PPR one. But I mean, Adams is always a locked in wide receiver 1 until like he falls off, and I don't think he's fallen off or close to falling off. So yeah, okay. So he's around wide receiver 13, wide receiver 14, depending on the scoring. I think he has better days ahead, and he stays a locked in wide receiver 1 for sure.
Yeah, with
who's a rookie going to rely on? They're the studs, the reliables. I am worried about Jacoby Myers because like I think that was a product of like McDaniel's system.
Yeah, totally.
And like
totally
obviously
agree.
playing, and then Garoppolo was familiar with the system as well because he played with them in New England. So like I'm sure you were going to get there, but yeah, I'm not worried about Adams at all.
Yeah, not worried about Adams at all. Yes, I would worry about Jacoby Myers. Again, the one game sample size that we do have, he only had 4 targets in that game with Aiden O'Connell behind center. Aiden O'Connell throws the ball deep. He had like 6 deep shots in that game. He was testing the defenses. I trust him to throw the ball. He's really got nothing to lose because if the Raiders are in any position in the top 15 of going into the draft, they're going to draft a quarterback next year at a higher draft capital. It's just going to happen at this point. So he's really just coming out here to just sling it. That's all he can do, which is why I think QB Aiden O'Connell in 2 QB flex leagues has some fantasy appeal for sure. He's a QB2 for me. I wouldn't like stream him in any, QB1 leagues unless he can prove it first. But I'm fine sending him out there against New York. So for sure, just traded away half their defense before the trade deadline. That's enough about the Oakland Raiders. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, we appreciate you guys so much. A few comments here before we get moving on. Addison or Douglas PPR, Terrell said. definitely going with Addison here. I get it. Who's going to be the QB? Is it Dobbs? Which people are saying it's not Dobbs. It's going to be the rookie Hall. But
Well,
it's like,
just this week, I'm guessing
but
because
why?
Dobbs doesn't have enough time to learn the offense. That's all.
Yeah, but do we remember like before the season started, everybody was like Clayton Tune, and then 2 days before the season started, they signed Dobbs, and Dobbs started 2 days later. Like, why not
Yeah.
just throw him out there? He could throw a ball, he can run.
I mean,
Let him
I
do it.
think maybe they're trying to compete still. I mean,
Yeah.
so they just don't want to risk it without him learning the offense at all. But I guarantee
Sure.
you, if he's, I mean, if Dobbs is active and the rookie struggles, that they'll throw Dobbs out
Well,
there.
save it, Jacob, because we're gonna spend like 5 minutes on it in 2 seconds.
Oh,
But
okay,
yeah,
okay.
Jordan Addison here. Douglas feels like a trap to me. I know Kendrick Bourne tore his ACL. He's been getting a lot of pepper targets, but they're all like 30 yards apiece. So if he goes 9 for 44, it's going to be a good game. But
Addison
Addison
has
has the
been
touchdown upside.
so solid, so consistent, other than the 0-point game earlier in the year. So
For sure,
he still got a steal for me in Dynasty. That
No,
can't
I
believe
did
that trade.
not. Relax. Super CNB Challenger says, "Yo, Howell or Levis this week?" I'm going with Sam Howell.
That is a great question.
I'm going with
Levis
Sam
is
Howell.
exciting, but how?
Yeah. And someone said it perfectly. I was reading an article about Levis. It's like, sure, Levis at home against a really bad defense is one thing. Levis away in Pittsburgh in prime time against a freaking Pittsburgh Steelers who has not been good, but blitz the hell out of quarterbacks. I don't know. I don't see it. He says, all right, I appreciate it. Yeah, man, we appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by. Let's get to that Minnesota Vikings, what we were just talking about. Obviously, Kirk Cousins done for the season. Joshua Dobbs comes in. We don't know if he's playing this week, but making a move at all, right? Like literally making a move at all lets us know that the Vikings think they can still compete this season, which should bode well for anybody who has shares of Justin Jefferson with hopes that he could be coming back. I saw a report today that he could come back sooner rather than later. So these are all good things, right? Joshua Dobbs, clearly better option than Hall, the rookie. We don't know if he's going to play this week, but let's talk about Addison. Let's talk about KJ Osborne in the time being. It's bye weeks, so there's not really much to say because this isn't a week where everyone's playing and you can say, okay, KJ Osborne with a guy who's only had 3 days of practice. What do I do? Like, you might be forced to start some of these guys. So let's take a look and see where they are. But give me your thoughts. Do you think Osborne is like, can he keep the offense afloat at all?
Dobbs?
Yeah, Dobbs in Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of became a little bit of a fan of Joshua Dobbs because I forget what I was watching. I think it was Red Zone, and they shared the story of how like he went to go buy a jersey at the Cardinals shop and they didn't have his jersey there. Like he went to go buy one for like a family member or a friend or something.
Yeah.
And they like he even went to like, oh, customize your own jersey, right? In the store. And they didn't have his name in there. And like, let alone have like, printed ones ready. They just didn't even have his name in the system.
It's one thing if it's like week 1 and he just got traded, but is it like week 5? Like
I think it was like week 2 or something, but
yeah, that's
week 2 or 3. But then, and he was kind of funny in that video. Like he documented the whole thing and like made a little funny video of it. But so I thought that was cool. And then I've had to rely on him in like 2 Superflex leagues because quarterback has been brutal this year.
Dude, it's been brutal, man.
Hasn't it? Or is it just me? Because
it's not just you, it's everybody.
In my Superflex leagues, like even like, I mean, where I've had even one where I have Allen and Trevor Lawrence, like Trevor Lawrence hasn't been doing anything for fantasy this year. And then like everybody else is injured all the time. Like Fields injured, Watson out, like, and Richardson. It's like, so I have one league where like Herbert has been my only healthy quarterback. And then another league where I had Burrow and Watson. So I've had to rely on Joshua Dobbs. And what do I know? I check, I have 25 fantasy points. And I'm like, damn, okay. But regardless, I mean, obviously he needs to feed players in order to put up stats. So if he's getting those stats, he's feeding players. And I think he can be viable enough to keep to keep two of those wide receivers relevant, whether it's Addison and Osborne or Jefferson and Addison.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. To me, it comes down to like, I think, like we talk about Devontae Adams being quarterback proof. I think Justin Jefferson has a chance to be quarterback proof. So basically, what we're saying is, can Dobbs provide fantasy value for Justin Jefferson when he comes back? The answer should be yes. But the real question is, can he provide fantasy value for Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne in the time being? So let's look at matchups this week. They play Atlanta. And again, we don't know who the QB is. Let's just say it's Joshua Dobbs. You're playing Jordan Addison in Atlanta. Again, they got Perry, the quarterback, cornerback, who's been really good this year. Or you're going Rashee Rice. Everybody's waiting for that breakout game. It's kind of come in spurts. But who are you taking, Jordan Addison or Rashee Rice?
I'm still going to go with Addison because Patrick Mahomes still spreads the ball around way too much. And
even with the question mark at quarterback?
Regardless of QB, like, I think, look, Cousins is so reliable and he's way above average. But the thing is, I think, that being said, I think the success of Addison is a product of the system as well. And I think they're just going to manufacture the offense the same way. Whether the QB can get him the ball effectively enough we'll see. But I think the opportunity for Addison is going to be there. He's going to be hyper targeted. He's going to be arguably, I mean, him and Hawkinson, right? The motor of that offense, where you can't say that about Rashee Rice. So I would go Addison. For sure. What about the running back situation? Kirk Cousins goes down. They were the team that was probably in the top 5 or 10 in pass attempts per game. Madison never got it going, so they get Cam Akers. Cam Akers is kind of just lollygagging around since he's been here. If you could choose one of these guys the rest of the season, who are you taking, Cam Akers or Alexander Madison? I don't have any of them, so I literally don't care, but I'm trying to put my best foot forward here and a happy smile and say, let's decide between the two. But I think it's gross. I don't want either of them. I roster Madison in way too many leagues. It's like, there you go. I'm relying on him as like an RB2 a lot of weeks, and it's not good. So I'm kind of like really upset about him. But I don't know, man. That's a tricky one. I'd rather not play either of them, to be honest. But if I guess I have to choose Madison, but like, it's not close. Like, I mean, it's close. Like, I don't feel great about it. Like, I could totally understand just throwing Akers out there too. Yeah, no one feels good about it. I think the coach likes Akers more. So yeah, I guess, man. I mean, honestly, yes, I'd probably go Akers as well. He's gotten whatever the goal line carries are to Minnesota. Well, remember, the coach was with Akers in LA on the Rams, so they probably have like a friendship or something. Yeah. Something weird, something crazy. I don't know. What about TJ Hawkinson? To be honest, yes, as far as the running backs go, I'd rather go with the new toy, Cam Akers. Hawkinson, top 3 tight end. I mean, every week. But can he sustain it with no Kirk Cousins? I think he's likely to be even not better, but like relied upon more. I think he's going to be relied upon even more. I think he was an option for Kirk Cousins. Now I think he's going to be a safety blanket, a priority for whoever comes in. All right. I feel that. I mean, 9 targets, 12 targets, 8, 11. Yeah, 8, I mean, 9. He's already getting the volume. He's been getting some love. He's been getting some love for sure. Yeah, top 5 tight end in a world of tight ends where no one really cares. Yeah, tight end, fire him up. He's proof. And we've seen Dobbs throw to the tight end a lot over in Arizona as well, with Zach Ertz and Trey McBride recently having a breakout campaign. Maybe a great player to get for your fantasy team as the season rolls towards its finish line. That's it. Let us know what you think about your thoughts for the Minnesota Vikings going forward. And as always, air high fives. We appreciate your thoughts. Give us a like, follow, down in the comments, all the good stuff. Jacob, before we get out of here, I wanted to just go over a few trades
that have happened recently in a number of the leagues that we play in. And I finally remembered what we were talking about earlier when you said you love all your leagues, you pay attention to them. That stupid league. I have literally not looked at it in 7 weeks, man. I have not. Once you told me, I didn't even trust you. Like I gave you my full trust because I didn't care. Once you told me that the lineup's auto set, I have not looked at that team. And you spent
Wow.
some bank in that league, and I could not care. And
Wow.
it has just been money down the drain for me. That's what I wanted to say. I think I got my first win though. I have to look. I couldn't tell you.
I mean, hey, I think you're gonna end up staying because you're gonna have like the 101. So you might just keep that league just
I
to
don't
have
even
the
know how draft
101.
picks in that league go, so I don't know. I have no idea. It's
I
upsetting.
mean, you're gonna have a high pick either way.
Whatever. And then once you said if you trade picks, you can't, like, you're kind of guaranteeing yourself next year's spot in the league. I don't even want to do that. So now I'm not trading picks. It's just annoying. I hate it. I hate everything about it. I'm done. Sorry, my fantasy player. Don't sponsor us. Maybe they will down the road, and this clip will have to be deleted, but it is what it is. Jacob, again, just wanted to go over some trades that have recently happened in a couple of our leagues. You got 4 more minutes to spend with me, bud?
Oh, yeah.
We got a world of time here, baby. And of course, we pin our trades, and then they don't show up forever. But here's one that was done. Let's see. Let's just see how this trade panned out. It happened 3 months ago. Okay. So we can kind of look in the rearview mirror and see, how did this trade work out? Are you ready? In one of our leagues, it was a Dynasty 12-man league. It was Dalvin Cook. Oh, wait, this is your trade. Okay, cool. Dalvin Cook, Damian Pierce, and a 2025 first for Antonio Gibson and Treylon Burks. I'll tell you right now, Jacob, I did not mean for this to be the first trade that I went over. I literally went to I went to the first league and just
okay, that was like in week 1, okay, where I believe that Antonio Gibson is one of my ride or dies. Isn't that so? That's even worse.
Yeah,
isn't that so sad? So
I
traded him thinking that he was going to have a great year, and because I had him in like 4 leagues, so I was fine with that. And then Treylon Burks, obviously injury. We thought he was going to have a breakout year, injury. So basically, and I didn't like Cook. And I thought Pierce was okay. So like it was basically trading those 2 pieces that I valued for a first. But obviously it looks like that trade looks great for me right now. I mean, it's a 2025 first. Who the world's going to blow up before then.
That's fair. That's fair. This trade happened a little less than a month ago. And it also features you and I. Let's see how it turned out. This was Ramondre Stevenson, Jahan Dotson, who just had an amazing game, by the way. Let's hope it sticks out. And a 2025 fifth for Isaiah Pacheco and a 2024 fourth. So I got Isaiah Pacheco. I think I paid a lot for him, especially after the fact when you were literally like, man, I would have done Stevenson for Pacheco straight up. It's one of those trades that you send at like 11 o'clock at night.
Let's not hype Dotson too much, though. He had 1 good game. He's been terrible all year.
I'm trying to hype you up. You got Dotson here. Like, he had a great game.
No, but what I'm saying is that, I mean, look,
he could have a strong half of the season.
Stevenson's been better since you traded him to me. So thank you for that.
And Isaiah Pacheco has kept the ship afloat.
So. But I'll tell you what, Dotson was a drop consideration before, and this is a dynasty league. It's a 10-man league, so it's it's
a little shallow.
Yeah, it's a little shallow. So Dotson was like drop candidate before this week. So I mean, I like the trade for me.
All right. Well, damn, Jacob, all the trades are between you and someone else and probably me, because now I'm in a different league and this is the last trade that happened. It was you and me again, but let's not get to that one. Let's get to this one first. This was a trade involving me. I got Nico Collins and Romeo Doubs and a 2024 first. I basically swapped first because my first that I owned was going to be a later first. And then I gave up Elijah Moore and Pat Freiermuth. In my 2024 fourth or first, that was going to be a lower pick. Looking back at this, self-reflection on my end, Collins and Dobbs have not been anything since that trade. They both had some pretty hot starts to the season. They haven't done much as of late since the trade. But neither has Elijah Moore or Pat Freiermuth. Given that we swapped first in that trade, there's a reasonable chance that I could still not make the playoffs and also have a top 4 pick. So I'm not too worried about it because the pick that I gave up also has a chance to make the playoff. So they could both be picks that are in the top, between the 5 and 10 slot. So I don't feel too bad about it. It's funny, right? We never really have a chance to do this. Like, look at trades after the fact. Like, how has it been 3 weeks later, a month later? That's just to say,
you kind of forget about it. You just accept how your team is now in a way.
Exactly. But you never really think about it. And then all of a sudden when it happens, right?
I like keeping track of the dynasty trades though. There was a trade between Joseph and I. It was Herbert and Lawrence, like on each side. So it was like Herbert, Etienne, Pickens for Lawrence, Najee, and Garrett Wilson. And like we've been keeping track of that trade for like over a year. Like, who won the trade? And it keeps going back and forth. So it's interesting.
It's so funny you say that because I wish I had something like that. Because when we started your Dynasty League, one of the first ones that we ever started, I drafted Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
You did.
Everybody was just spitting on my name. Like, why'd you wait so long? Passing
and
quarterbacks.
They were amazing.
And they are no longer on my team.
Yeah.
They were
you
gone
had the top 2 quarterbacks
season.
in the league in fantasy at one point.
I did, and they're all gone now. I trade a lot, but it's so funny. I wish I could see the trajectory because now I know that Lamar is on Joe's team, and I think the other Joe has Josh Allen, or maybe you have him in that league.
No,
and it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, you traded him to Joe. I think you traded me Lamar, and then I traded Lamar to the other Joe. Yeah,
I see. All right, let's do 2 more here. This was just recently, as of last week. It was George Pickens for Javonte Williams. A trade that I was involved in. I'm sorry. It looks like I'm the only one trading in leagues. I'm literally going through the history in our leagues.
Yeah. Is that in a keeper or dynasty?
No, this isn't beer. So now we're looking at redraft.
Okay,
the other ones that we had previously talked about were dynasty or pick 6.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we're at now. So what do you think? Javonte or Pickens? Who would have won that trade? Javonte came out and got 22 carries for almost 90 yards.
For me, that one depends on team needs.
And I think it was a perfect trade in hindsight because Joe had no wide receivers. I had no running backs. They were both sitting on our benches. So we swapped it. And then he was able to start Pickens that week, and I was able to start Javonte. So and they both ended up with touchdowns.
Well with Trubisky too, right? So the only thing I'd be worried about is if Pickett is out because they have such a good connection.
Yeah.
But all things being equal, like Pickens continues playing the way he is and Javonte's usage continues, I think it's a solid trade.
Most definitely. I think it's fair. Last one, another one that I was involved with. This one happened on October 14th, so about 2.5 weeks ago. It was the big trade in the Rio League. I gave up Tyreek Hill, Jordan Addison, and T. Higgins, and I got Amon-Ra, CeeDee Lamb, Drake London, Anthony Richardson, who's going to be cut, obviously, and Keaton Mitchell. How did that trade look now, 2.5 weeks later? Obviously, CD just had the great game. Tyreek Hill's been fantastic. Jordan Addison has been fantastic. Higgins has kind of sputtered. Amon St. Brown has been strong, and Drake London has come on very strong.
So you got Addison as well?
I did not get Addison. I gave up Hill, Addison, Higgins. I got Brown, Lamb, and London, essentially.
I mean, it's solid. I mean, the thing is, in that league, it's keeper, right? So if you're keeping, Lamb and Amon-Ra next year, it's not bad for you. And as opposed to like maybe Hill ages out next year, who knows? So
yeah,
it's a good trade. I mean, look, if Lamb it ends up being like a top 3 wide receiver this year, which I think he should, I think he will, then it looks really good for you.
He's available.
I'm always.
We need to do that more often. We're gonna try to fit that in. It's always kind of cool to look back in hindsight and talk about some of the trades that we've made or we've seen. Unfortunately, this time around, it was all trades that we've made. But sometimes, yes, our league mates do trade. They're not just bots, but they're a little scared because we're so trigger happy. It's just how it goes. But let us know what you think of those trades. What are your stories? Your crazy stories? How have your trades panned out? Let us know down in the comments below. And before we get out of here today, for sure, we're going quick here. Who are some RBs I can target for Mostert? This is what Bryce Peak has to say. Josh Jacobs. People are going to be very distasteful with that offense and with them thinking that they might tank. That's the first guy that I would probably look to go after. Jacob, you got a guy in mind?
That's a good one. I was going to say Mostert's hard to trade because nobody believes he's going to keep it up.
Yeah.
Like A-Chain's coming back. Like, and it's like Mostert is the most valuable on your team, I think, because as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be involved. Like, even with A-Chain, he was still an RB1.
Yeah, and there's a world where he's actually more efficient when A-Chain comes back. Like, less touches, but he's got more energy, more legs.
So, like I think unless there's an RB desperate team, and I mean that's the thing. You're asking who are some RBs you can trade for. I like what you said, Josh Jacobs, because people are going to value him as he has been this year, and that's a good one. That's something I would look into. I think you can get Josh Jacobs, and maybe a little wide receiver on top or something.
There you go. Thanks for the question, Bryce. Wizzy says a bit heavy on wide receivers, looking to trade for an RB2. I have Adams, Olave, Deontay, D-Hop, Flowers. Who would you trade out of them, and who would you go for? Listen, I like Will Levis. I thought he had a great game, but I do not believe he's going to sustain and keep DeAndre Hopkins a wide receiver 1 for the rest of the season. D-Hop and Flowers, I am happy to move. I want to hold on to Adams and Olave, maybe Deontay. If you could flip Deontay, D-Hop, or Flowers, and in that order, I'd probably rank them maybe D-Hop, Deontay, Flowers. So if that's how you kind of want to arrange it, but I don't know. Those are the 3 guys I'm looking to get rid of.
Definitely.
And then again,
D-Hop after this week. I mean, he could still be really good for the rest of the season, but 4 catches, 3 touchdowns, unsustainable.
So
if you can Deontay and D-Hop for me.
If you can trade D-Hop for Jacobs, I'd do it.
Yes,
if you can trade
D-Hop
Flowers for Jacobs, if you could trade Flowers and Deontay for Jacobs, I would do it because you probably need to package those 2. And Jacobs is just the guy that's coming to mind because he's on my mind right now. He's such a big buy low for me. I think he's going to get an insane amount of volume, like Jacob mentioned earlier, and that's just kind of where we're at. Jacob, before we get out of here today, dude, who's your surprise performer for week 9? You got one saved up. Let us hear it, dude. Let us hear it.
Okay, so I'm glad I get to do this because I know we missed 3 weeks.
Been waiting all show.
We missed 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, we missed some time.
This was one because there were 2 of those weeks I had a guy ready and we didn't get to do it. And one of those times was I chose Jackson Smith and Jigba. And the thing is, I chose him before knowing that Metcalf was going to be out, and then Metcalf was out, and then he ended up having a really good game. But I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is on the rise. Now, look, he's still a 3rd wide receiver in a trio of wide receivers, right?
Yes.
When we're talking about Metcalf, Lockett, and JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, if you look at their snap percentage, their targets, he's 3rd, right? But ever since the bye week, after week 5, since week 6, his snap percentage has increased and it's been consistently up there. I mean, 72%, 63, 66, as opposed to like a lot lower earlier on in the season. Even earlier on in the season, he's consistently getting 5 or 4 targets, and that's seeing an increase as of late. And if you look at his yards per catch, since week 6, he's been over 12 yards per catch, which is like really good. That means he's catching a lot of balls down the field. He's had back-to-back touchdown games, including a game-winning touchdown last week. And what does a game-winning touchdown do for you?
Builds momentum.
Your coach loves it. Builds momentum. Your teammates believe in you. The quarterback is all of a sudden is going to like trust you a lot more. And this is a rookie, right? So maybe he has to earn that before they start turning to him even more. I think we could see a second half of the season like leapfrog over Tyler Lockett a little bit. I mean, I know they love Lockett in Seattle. He's been there forever. But I could see him leapfrog Lockett. I don't think he passes up Metcalf anytime soon. But look, the Seahawks, they played Baltimore this week, who they're not they're not easily giving up fantasy points to wide receivers, but they're 10th, which means they're the 10th friendliest defense to fantasy wide receivers. So it's not a great matchup, but it's a matchup where he can do some damage there. And I think that, they're going to need him to compete in this game. And look, I believe Seattle's in first place now in the NFC West, which is crazy because the
how the
Niners
times
have
have
lost 3 in
changed.
a row, and they're going to have to, you can never have too many amazing options on a team. So I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is due for a big week.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Jacob. Clearly, people have wanted this man to be something that he has not over the course of the season. We knew because we get so hyped up about rookies because we play in all these dynasty
Oh,
leagues.
yeah.
And in our minds, we're like, they're going to be stars. They're going to be great. And we have to temper our expectations when the season starts because it takes time for these guys to develop and get the playing time. Even if they were first round picks, look at Gibbs. Look at Quentin Johnston, a guy that we chatted up a lot in the offseason, and none of them have really panned out. Gibbs
Yeah. I
as
mean,
of late,
other than Addison.
Addison as of late, and then now Smith and Jigba. It's a fine play. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. That was the wrong one. Let us know what you think about Jackson Smith and Jigba down in the comments. And as always, thank you. We appreciate you. Well, damn it, Jacob. It's been a good time. It's a thing, folks. We're back Wednesday nights at 7. A little shorter, a little more compact. Just because we want to pack in all our love in a smaller amount of time. When we spread it out, it's just too much love. We need to condense the love here, and that's what we're doing. And I've just had this pinned up, Jacob. So I'm doing the outro today. I'm going with the what do we even call them? I forgot. Oh my gosh, what are they called, Jacob? Help me out. What do we end the show with?
Oh, hot takes.
Oh my gosh. Here is my hot take for week 9 of the NFL season. And this is a storyline that'll take us through the end of the NFL season and possibly into the playoffs. The newly coached Las Vegas Raiders are going on a win streak, baby. That's right. Just win. They're sweeping house, and it starts this week against the New York Giants. They're a wild card playoff team behind the backs of Aiden O'Connell, Josh Jacobs, and Devontae Adams. You heard it here first. We'll see you next week. Peace. Never mind. Peace again.